Oh, stop right there. I want to tell you about something. Jakey Ross is planning to do one of the biggest AFL videos ever and one of the biggest AFL events ever. 100 people versus 100 people in a game of footy. The biggest game of footy ever. And if you want to get involved, you can, but you must be living in Victoria. The event will be happening on Thursday, the 20th of April at 10 a.m. at Parkdale. So if you want to get involved, click the video in the link in the description below. Head over to Jakey Ross's video and get involved in this massive event. It's gonna be huge if it happens, and I really want it to happen. I'm getting involved, Cardman's getting involved, so make sure you get involved as well, and let's get this massive AFL event to happen. What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Bit of Footy YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be running through my round 3 tips for the 2023 AFL season. Now, before we do that, let's just take a look at how I did last weekend or last week. Last week, I got a total of 4 out of 9 tips. Considering how I did in round 1, 4 out of 9 isn't that great, and it puts me in 8th spot out of 16 people in my own tipping competition. If you guys still want to join the tipping competition, it's in the link in the description and it's in the pinned comment below as well, so go join that. But yeah, in first spot in my own tipping competition is Matty. I'm sure you'll see his name on the screen. I'll try to pronounce the last name, Matty Prosenko, or Prosenko, something like that. I'm sorry that I'm butchering it. I'm trying my best here, man. I'm so sorry. But yeah, Matty's in top spot. And some of these ones, who is actually my brother, is in bottom spot. But it's still relatively close on how the scores are doing. Top spot is 12 points and bottom spot is only 8 points. So it's still relatively close, and a lot of things will change, especially this week with a lot of good games of footy to tip from. So yeah, let's get straight into my round 3 tips. Alright, I haven't even entered my own tips into ESPN yet, so it's good that I'm doing it now so I don't forget for later on. But we're kicking off round number 3 with a big clash between the Bulldogs and the Lions at Marvel Stadium on Thursday night. The Dogs are coming off, you would say, a very disappointing loss against the Saints last weekend, while the Lions are coming off a good and I guess you could say bizarre win against the D's with what happened in that game, especially in that final quarter. I'm not going to say much about this game, but I do think the Lions will come out on top in this one. The Dogs are just looking a little bit lackluster, but I could also see this game being one where the Dogs just come out and play really good footy. Like, I just don't know at this point, but considering how well the Lions went last weekend against the D's, I feel like they're gonna, carry on that momentum from that win, and they're gonna beat the Dogs in this game. And I feel like, especially with Dane Sorko in their side, they just looked a little bit more aggressive, the Lions, which I think they were just lacking that bit of aggressiveness in round 1. So yeah, I feel like the Lions will get the job done in this game, so I'm going to tip them to get the win in this one, and I'll tip the Lions to get the job done. I feel like it's going to be still a close game. I feel like these two teams match up against each other very well, so I'll tip the Lions by a margin of 13 points at Marvel Stadium. Next up, it's the Friday night game between my Pies and the Tigers. The Pies coming off a 71-point win against the Power, while the Tigers are coming off a big win of their own against the Crows. I think the margin was somewhere between like 30 and 40 points, the margin that the Tigers beat the Crows by. So both of these teams are coming in to round 3 off some good form. But I'm going to be tipping my Pies to get the job done in this game. The way that we played last weekend against the Power was very good. And now that's 2 weeks in a row, or 2 rounds in a row, where we scored over 100 points. So yeah, we just look like we're having fun out there. I know it's going to be a tough game this weekend against the Tigers, but I still reckon my boys can get the job done with how they're playing at the moment. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. The Tigers, I know, are going to bring their all like they normally do against the Pies anyway. So I feel like it's going to be a close margin at the end, but I think my Pies will get the job done. So yeah, I'm going to be tipping my Pies to win this one over the Tigers. Con the Pies. Next up, we move on to the Saturday games. We've got the Hawks taking on North Melbourne down in Tassie. The Hawks are coming off a big loss against the Swans. Another big loss for them. While the Kangaroos are coming off a pretty impressive, well, I won't even say pretty impressive, I'll say really impressive win against Fremantle over in Perth as well. So they're going to be feeling very good about themselves. So yeah, I'm going to be tipping North Melbourne in this game. I think they're just playing some very good footy at the moment. I think they sort of troubled the Dockers for a lot of that game. So yeah, I'm going to be tipping North Melbourne in this one. I think the Hawks, they're just, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with the Hawks at the moment. They're just looking a bit lackluster. Hopefully they can be a bit more competitive than they have been in the first 2 games that they've played. But I still think North will be the better side on the day and get the job done over the Hawks. Next up, we've got the Giants taking on the Blues at Giants Stadium. The Giants coming off a loss against the Eagles over at Perth Stadium, or up the stadium, sorry. And the Blues are coming off a very good win against the Cats last week. I'm going to be tipping the Blues in this game. The Giants, yeah, I don't know. They looked okay at the start of that game against the Eagles, but then they sort of dropped off, whereas the Blues, they looked pretty good. Well, I won't even say pretty good. They looked very good in that game against the Cats for basically just the whole majority of that game, besides some parts of that game where the Cats looked like they were coming back. But yeah, they played some terrific football last weekend, the Blues, to get the job done over Geelong. And I think they're going to, you know, continue on with that momentum, continue on from that win against the Cats. And yeah, they'll get the job done here over the Giants. Next up, we've got the Saints taking on the Bombers at the MCG. The Saints are coming off an impressive win against the Bulldogs, while the Bombers are coming off a win of their own against the Suns. It's an anniversary game, this one, for the Saints, which is why it's at the MCG. And I will be tipping the Saints to get the job done in this game. I thought it was very impressive how they managed to get the job done with an undermanned and underexperienced side last weekend against the Dogs. I thought they played a very good brand of footy. The Dons, even though they got the win last weekend, they had to fight back in that game. And I feel like if they have to do the same in this game against the Saints, they won't get the same result as they did against the Suns. So yeah, I'm going to be tipping the Saints in this game, in their anniversary game, to get the job done over the Bombers. Next up, we've got the Showdown. It's between, well, obviously it's between Port Adelaide and Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. Where else would it be? It's a tough game to dip this one because both teams are coming off losses. The Power coming off a loss to my Pies, and the Crows are coming off a loss to the Tigers. But I will be tipping Port Adelaide to get the job done in this game. I just feel like on paper Port Adelaide have the stronger side, but I do still think it'll be a close game. I think the Crows will really push the Power in this game, and it will be another classic showdown, hopefully. But yeah, I still feel like Port Adelaide, the team that they have on paper, is just going to be too good and too strong for the Crows. So I'm going to be tipping the Power in this game to get the job done over the Crows in another classic showdown. Next up, we've got the Suns taking on the Cats at Heritage Bank Stadium. The Suns are coming off a loss to the Bombers, while the Cats are coming off a loss to the Blues. It's a tough game to tip. Another tough game to tip, but I think the Cats will be good enough to get the job done and finally get a win in 2023. I know both teams haven't won a game this season yet, but I think the Cats on paper should have the team to get the job done over the Swans. Hopefully the Swans can test out the Cats a little bit and be competitive in this game like they were last weekend against the Bombers, but I still feel like the Cats will be too good for the Suns in this one. I mean, they only lost to the Blues by 8 points in the end, so they still had, you know, they still played pretty decently against the Blues last weekend, only to get done by 8 points. So yeah, I still feel like the Cats will be too good for the Suns in this game and manage to get their first win of the 2023 AFL season. Next up is the 3:20 game at the MCG. We've got the Demons taking on the Swans. What a good game this will be. The D's are coming off that a wild loss to the Lions last weekend, last week, while the Swans are coming off a win against the Hawks last weekend, and it was a very big win as well. It's a tough game to tip because it is at the MCG, but the Swans do tend to play good footy at the MCG, and right now they're just playing good footy everywhere. So I think the Swans are going to be too good for the D's in the end. In this game, so I'm going to be tipping the Swans to get the job done here. They played very well last weekend, and they played very well against the Suns in round 1 as well. I know the Suns and the Hawks aren't the toughest opponents going around, but they could only beat what's in front of them, and I feel like, you know, the momentum that they have at the moment, the Swans are just going to carry that on into this game, and they'll be able to beat the D's. I think it'll be a close game because it is at the MCG, but yeah, I still feel like the Swans will be too good for the D's in this game, and they'll get the job done in this one. And the final game of the weekend. Somehow this is the final game of the weekend. I don't know how. I feel like this should be a, well, maybe not considering how both teams are going at the moment, but yeah, we've got the Dockers taking on the Eagles at Optus Stadium. The Dockers are coming off that disappointing loss against North Melbourne, while the Eagles are coming off a win against the Giants, so they're actually the Perth team with the win on the board at the moment. But I don't think they're going to win this game, the Eagles. I think the Dockers, they've got the better team on paper. And even though they've lost their first 2 games, surely they can't lose to the Eagles. Surely, with the team that the Dockers have. If the Dockers lose this game, I will not tip the Dockers next weekend, no matter who they play. So yeah, I'm going to be backing in the Dockers in this game. Hopefully it is a close Western Australian derby or derby. But yeah, I hope that it's going to be a good game of footy. But I think on paper, the Dockers have the better side and should get the job done over the Eagles. But like last weekend, you just never know what can happen. So yeah, those are all my tips done and dusted for this round of footy. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and like I said at the start, if you want to join my tipping competition, it's in the pinned comment and in the description below. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in another video soon. Cheers.